broadcasting this on YouTube, and I think if anybody's tuning in live or on demand, we understand this is not going to be user friendly, just given the tech setup that we have currently. But you can go to the city's website, and we put on the agenda links to the documents that we're just going to be going through and talking about. So if you're interested, just to go there to follow along. And I would just say all these documents, we're still making year-end journal entries for 2021. So those are drafts, they're not final. And all the documents here are drafts and not certified, complete, or approved. So I just think that's important. I think it's important that everybody recognizes that we're asking a lot of our city commissioners this budget cycle. We got a new mayor, new city commissioner, and a new commission in Broad, and we have a few new staff members as well. So we're moving fast, and preliminary approvals on August 1. And I think it's a testament to just how challenging some of these jobs that you guys have as city commissioners are, getting all this information and then asking for a significant decision on where we're going the next year in just a week or two. So thank you guys for that. Tight timeline, but we're going to get it going. And I would also just say, especially in the city administrator's office and the city auditor's office, just a lot of institutional knowledge and change here. So if you guys have questions, and it's specifically, I would say, pertaining to the past, we might have a little difficulty answering it right here in this meeting, but we're definitely, we'll go back, we'll do some research and follow up with you if there's something we can't answer today. So I think first off, first agenda item is the salary plan. And I had a good conversation with Tanya over the phone yesterday. And she sent a memo in early this morning. So I provided that for you guys. Her thoughts is kind of a recap of the conversation we had. And I think we could just start off as far as salary plan, where what the workforce trends currently are and what their impacts on the city of Devils Lake have been. Obviously, the workers have been hard to come by, and we have a lot of open positions that are hard to fill. Why this is, it's a nationwide trend. Why it is, I don't think there is one single reason. There's a lot of factors at play, and nobody has the silver lining as to why it is. We have one of the largest generations exiting the workforce, reaching retirement age. The pandemic also happened in the last couple of years. More people are seeking remote work. Probably, there's some people might be less inclined to actually be in the workforce and do work. High school kids probably don't have jobs at the frequency they used to generations past. So that's really impacted our ability to, hire temporary workers, whether that be in the cemetery or shade tree. And as a result, we've had to contract some of those out to continue to execute the mission. And currently, I think we've seen the biggest impacts in our public works departments. Utilities department and public ways have had a lot of job openings. It's been hard to fill those positions, and we got a lot of hardworking, dedicated employees working around the clock to make sure that we're still executing our jobs. And so I want to thank them, given the circumstances. Also, we've seen that impact in hiring department head level positions. City assessor job has been open for quite a while. And our city attorney, when we advertised that, we got 2 proposals. And then, as well as the city auditor, we're really happy that we have Brina on the team. But the city auditor was advertised as a department head level grade 17 position, and we found a young talented person to take on as a deputy, but we didn't receive the we'll say more experienced, tested, and senior level auditor candidate in the pool that we had. So we've seen that in hiring department head level employees as well. And since coming in here as a city administrator and the formal leadership role for the first time, heard a lot of conversation about how, given this workforce environment, we need to be recruiting new employees. But then on the flip side, the next person will say, well, you need to make sure to keep the employees that you have. So it's a balance between recruiting new employees and retaining the ones that you currently have. And looking at the environment that we're in right now, CPI June 2021 to June 2022, it's at 9.1%. And you look at the drivers, and the biggest drivers are energy and fuel costs as to what's driving the inflation. Everybody's been paying it at the pump. You guys can see that. And looking at that and how you assess it from an organizational standpoint, you look at what's driving the inflation. It's not luxury items, right? These are essential things that you need. And energy and fuels impacts food prices as well. And I think everybody's felt that at the grocery store too. So it's not something that you can avoid through lifestyle changes in habits. I think it's everywhere you go. And with that, the cost of living recommendation is going to be 5%, mostly because typically, from my understanding organizationally, we've always tried to keep cost of living between 2 and 4%. That's kind of the window where we've always gone. Sometimes I think the recommendation has been more. It just from talking with Tanya on what she's seen in the history of the organization, and I thought really long and hard about the 4 versus the 5%. But I think the fact that we're seeing inflation at a level that we haven't seen in 40 years, it adds credibility to the fact that we might need to do something that I don't want to say uncharacteristic, but a little bit more than what we typically do. And I think a once in a 40-year event or occurrence in the marketplace, I think it justifies that. And I think it's something that we need to do to make sure that we're keeping up with the cost of living. In talking with Tanya, she says she's seen a lot of counties looking at 4%, a couple of them a little higher than that. She's I've in a city administrators group kind of here in the western half, South Dakota, Montana, North Dakota, and just some email chains. I think Williston's their staff is recommending 5% as well. I think Grand Forks is a little over 4%, and then I've got an email. I think like Missoula is looking close to 5 as well. So I think this puts us on par with other organizations that are in the same situation that we are. And if anything, it maybe one step above that. And so I think, given where we're at organizationally, this is something that's important to do. And the recommendation is going to be 5%. And looking at the general fund, I'm confident that that's something that we can do and keep property taxes where they need to be and not raise them. So, any questions specifically on that? Otherwise, I have just a quick thing on a little bit of a paradigm shift from talking with Tanya. And if you've had time to read that memo that she provided towards the end, we talked about how comparing ourselves to peer communities like, let's say, Grafton, Hillsborough, Valley City, Wahpeton, Jamestown, Crookston, and what have you, Williston, Watford City, that are those really the entities that we're competing for employees with? And I think an honest person would probably say we're probably not competing with those organizations specifically for a lot of the workers that we're looking to hire. Maybe some of the department head level positions we are, but as far as our sanitation, public ways, public utilities, police, fire, well, probably police and fire we are, but some of those more public works oriented positions we're probably not, which is where we're finding our biggest need. And so trying to take a paradigm shift of, should we be comparing ourselves with those departments to those peer cities, or should we be looking more regionally? And, I've had a lot of conversations with Mike and Tanya and Terry about we should really be looking at what the private sector in the area is doing as far as competing for those workers, NDTC, Medco, MDU, Otter Tail, for fear of leaving somebody out. I'll just stop there. But
it's pretty nice. It only took 4 years for that mindset to finally come across after it's been mentioned many times from two of us up here.
Yep. And, Tanya says in that email, the challenge with this is it's really hard to get readily available data, right? You can get the information from public sectors because you have to advertise it, but a lot of those private organizations want to keep that close. And so it's hard to get that information, but she's confident that if we choose to change our strategy saying, hey, 2024, this is really what we want to look at, that we can get something formidable by that time. And so given all the unknowns out there and all the changes that we've seen in the workforce, I've thought long and hard that I think a more blunt strategy with the 5% across the board is the best strategy, and taking a more targeted approach and committing now to kind of changing what we want to look at as far as compensation for specific departments, and looking more regionally for some, looking more across the state for others, committing to a strategy like that right now so that 2024 we can have a more in-depth conversation with that and hopefully impactful delivery to to review with that. So that's the strategy. That's kind of where, as the city administrator being new here, that's where my head is at with this. And so that was kind of what I was going to talk about on laying the groundwork for 2024. And the other thing to be thinking about is, people talk about the public sector jobs, and you go in public sector versus private sector. And the common one is, the benefits are really good public sector. And I will say we have good benefits. I think that the retirement contributions are good. We have a really good health plan, at least as far as the city's contribution goes for the employee. But, one of the things you want to look at too is the workforce is changing. Previous generations, you'd hold a job for a really long time in the same organization, 40 years, like Mayor Mo here. And others, how many years have you worked at Midco? Quite a few years. And
more than I care to say.
I'll stop going around the horn, but I'll stop going around the horn. But I will just say people from my generation, they're more transient. They go from town to town, or they go from organization to organization. And so I know that we recently changed how we were doing some of our pension plans and our retirement planning, but do we need to adapt and make ourselves more transient, more portable, so that people can transfer their, with that a 401k with another organization, can they transfer it in, and do we fund a 401k? The pension plans are really good if you're in an organization for a really long time and you get that defined benefit later on when you retire. But if you're coming in, coming out, you're more transient, it might not be the best as far as that. So just thinking about those things, and I'm more thinking about where do we want to be 2030, 2035 in that regard, as far as benefits specifically.
With that thought too, a lot of them now, they don't look at the benefit package. They know it's there, the retirement, the health, this and that, but they really look at these younger ones are what's in their paycheck.
Yeah,
that 2 weeks.
I'm finding this myself personally. When you are a young single person going place to place, you probably don't look at the benefit package. Once all of a sudden you start to get married, you want to grow a family. Now all of a sudden you start looking at the benefit package. And I think demographics, the information shows that people they're starting to have families later. And so those important benefits that we provide probably don't impact employees, or at least they don't look at them in detail probably until their early 30s versus their mid 20s when I used to. So.
Well, with that thought in mind, when we signed up for PERS, that was part of the package. You can join PERS from what you have now, or not join. That was fine. But going forward, everybody had to be a PERS member. Does anybody know if that's possible to break that agreement?
Well,
I don't
think you would want to break that right now.
No, but I mean, in their contract, it says every new employee has to go with
Yeah.
PERS or nothing.
Oh, I
So-
see, yeah.
And I just want to make clear, I'm not advocating to get away from PERS or anything, but it's just to make sure that from a benefit standpoint, we are an attractive employer in that regard. And just analyzing and looking at, is this the best thing for the organization? And obviously you don't want to negatively impact the employees that are currently here in that regard. So, those are really the devil's in the details kind of situations, but just a high level conceptually, just something that I want to think long and hard about and make sure that we're putting this organization in a good position come 2030, 2035 as it pertains to those types of things.
I know we played with a lot of different retirements over the years that I worked for the city, and once we got back on, when I first started, it was with PERS.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, the city voted out to get out.
Yeah.
And then we got back in 14, I think it was. And PERS, out of all the ones that we had, the ones that you can get into, people were borrowing money from them. And who knows what they'll have when they come retirement time, so. But there are a lot of good programs out there, but maybe I think a defined program plus they have to invest a little on their own.
Yep.
I think it would be a good way.
And right now, just so you guys know, if you have like the NDPERS defined benefit plan, the city contributes 9.0%. The employee, I think it's like 612. Is that right? 612%. So
They have the option not to contribute that as well, don't they? Though the 6.2.
No,
In order to be in PERS, I think it's 15%.
Yeah.
And so you're required to do the 6 as an employee because the city's only doing the 9.
Okay, all
Now,
right.
if you want to do something as part of the 457 plan that we have, in addition to that, that's your elective or
Okay, all right, that's
way I'm
education for me then. Okay, I just thought you didn't have to contribute anything if you didn't want to.
Yep.
But, okay.
And so the last item as far as salary plan stuff is, just given the situations that we're in, kind of a detailed department by department, grades and levels. I don't think that's in the cards for this cycle. But just the one thing, I came on board and Chief Bennett came up to me. He says, "Hey, I want to clearly communicate to my team some of the certifications and qualifications that they would be expected if they want to change grades and move up in the organization, and really give them a path forward. Where if they come on as their very first firefighter and they have a vision for, hey, I want to be here for a long time, I want to be a go-getter, a groundwork and a path forward of what they could be expected as far as certifications, qualifications to move forward." And so this is just really, it has nothing to do about any individual firefighters, or it's more about moving forward and clearly communicating to our first responders there in the fire department what's expected if they want to move up in the organization. So you have somebody that's a grade 9, it's like, well, I think I'm really deserving of grade 10. It's like, okay, well, you're going to have to put the work in. And it's kind of like an unofficial contract with them saying, we want you to succeed, but this is what you're going to have to do to do that. And so that's just one little tweak.
Well, isn't there in there, don't you have so many spots open for 9s, 10s?
Currently, right now, we have one grade 10, and that was based off the salary study that was done last year, I believe. I talked to Tanya a little bit about that. I talked to Spencer a little bit about that. One of the things that the fire department would like to do is open up 2 more positions for that grade 10. That way, all 3 of those guys have a spot to strive towards, instead of just capping them out at the grade 9. And then we also did one for the senior captain position also. And I believe you guys got those sheets.
That's one position there, or would you open that one up? No, it wouldn't be, it'd just be one, because it's a senior captain.
Yep, that's just one position.
And, because being the new city administrator here, I think when things like this come up, it's really important to gain an understanding of what's been done in the past and whatnot. And it's my understanding that we realigned some things in our police department. And I think this is the other, you got the police and fire as part of our first, our two legs of the 3-leg first responder. Obviously, our ambulance service isn't housed directly underneath the city, but these are the 2 stools that we have in our organizations. And so I think this is a really good way to strengthen and build a good foundation in our public safety side of our organization.
I think this benefits the city and the fire department as a whole. With the education and the learning and the certifications, that just betters the city. It's, if there's a fire and they need to do certain things, these ladies and gentlemen will know how to do it, So I think this is just, to me, from my military side, any of our federal positions, any of our rank structure positions, you have to meet certain criteria to be promoted or to get the next grade pay level, So I contribute this a lot with that. So that's why I really thought this was a great idea myself.
You don't have a captain at all?
So
Yeah, what do we have right now?
if you look on
You got a senior captain, but
currently at this time, we have 1 that got moved up in January. But looking forward the next few months, we may or may not have a captain. That's just some information I got in the last few days, so.
So the names are on the bottom of the page, so I don't need to ask a question who's where type of thing. So Brandon is a senior captain.
And And I think this is a foundational thing for not just the employees that are currently there, but future ones that come into the organization, laying that groundwork and giving them something to work up
Take the
toward.
names out of it and just put the positions in place.
Right,
So you don't
and the only
just
reason the names are on the
stalemate it.
bottom is because this is our fire department letterhead. So,
And that's good too for us to know.
Can have regrading within there? Are you asking for regrading your positions within your department?
no,
Oh,
These
just
are already
identifying the
approved.
ones that are there.
yep, they're already approved, it's just, there was one grade 10 that was approved, we're hoping to hopefully open up 2, so the other 2 can work towards that also. Instead of just capping them out at the 9.
You know,
And the way you cap out at the 9 is through your steps.
Correct.
Right, so
Yep,
you say,
yep.
so let's say I'm a grade 9, H. So I complete all of my criteria, I can go to a grade 10, and then where do I start out at on the scale?
So usually they would move diagonally back one, because they would still get that yearly raise then. But they would just move back, they'd go down a grade, 1 step back, and then they can move forward again.
So if I was an H, I'd go back to a G potentially once I'm at that.
Correct. Is how it was done in the past, so.
I just want to make sure if we're looking at grading positions in any department, you know, all the departments have very similar structure where you have, you know, in the military side, you know, you have your privates, you have your specialists, you have your sergeants, and you have that hierarchy. Even though you may be a private, so to speak, you're lower on, but you meet your certifications. And we encourage our people in utilities, for instance, to get not only the certifications required for that, but go 1 step above. You know, get those additional certifications, get those CDLs, get the things that you have. But there is no other slot, right? You have to have another slot.
Mhm.
So when somebody leaves that slot, so you may be a grade 7, the grade 9 position opens up, and you can move into that grade 9. You don't automatically transition a position from a 7 to a 9.
Right.
Unless
If
it's
nobody
over.
leaves in the
Mhm.
department, all of a sudden everybody could be a grade
Okay.
13, right? If you just had some hierarchy like that.
I don't think that's what you're trying to do here. No.
Yeah, I just want to make
No.
sure that
And
I'm
that's where
understanding
my
what's
mind
happening.
is going.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's.
Because that has far-reaching impacts on all the departments, right?
Yeah.
That's why we try and look at it city whole, as a whole for the grades and positions, not one department. But that's how
You
we.
kind of are looking at that because you wanted to open up 2 more spots in your captain section.
For the 10,
Yes.
and that's strictly on the, not the senior captain side, that's on the officer level side.
Yeah, so I mean, if that does open up, you're gonna have other departments that are gonna be looking at the same. I mean, water's gonna be looking at their slots for their certifications, streets, you know. I see it as a great thing, you know, it gives the guys in water, streets, all those places a reason to take these certifications and move up and not go, boy, that guy's only 40, so that's another maybe 20 years I gotta follow him before his slot opens. So, I mean, I would like to see it go all the way through all the departments. You know, gives you a reason to look to the future.
Yeah, it breaks the stalemate that you're stuck in, you know. People just get complacent in their jobs. I know I have. Gives you something to work towards.
So, no, it's a good thing.
So I would just asked the commission, any other questions in regard to the kind of the loose kind of salary plan that I kind of laid out there on that PowerPoint sheet, and also kind of the paradigm shift on where we're looking, moving forward, what we kind of want to do as far as looking at our positions and who we're comparing ourselves to moving forward. And if nothing, can move on to.
For the benefit package stuff, are you going to do some more research into that to see what's available? Or
No.
were you just saying that it's something to just?
It's just something to think about,
Okay.
something I'm thinking about. And, you know, obviously when you have someone like Tanya that's in your corner, you're tasking her with,
Yeah.
hey, look and see what other communities do as far as their plans. And if we see kind of a cool, innovative one that would benefit both the employee, the organization, make things a little bit more portable and transient, then give it its day in the sun and review it
Something to
and
be more competitive.
see. So,
Okay.
If you take like telephone company or Midco, see what they do, why their people are there for so long.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's not a benefit, but it's something in-house that is
The
done.
management, I'm telling you.
You know, it's like the company I work for, there's another company on our, on a contractor. So I work for the one company and there's like 8 people that work for the other company. Their time off, their PTO is a much better package than ours. You know, they get more time for however how many hours they work compared to what we get. So, you know, things are looking like that. Like, man, I wish I had that because it's, you know, they're working 8 hours and they're getting, you know, whatever it is, you know, more than me. So, you know, it's looking at that sort of thing too. That really opens people's eyes a little bit.
Okay. Should we move
So,
on?
and for now, nothing's changing here, it's just FYI, and
I believe
if
that.
we're gonna open up the positions, that'll be a discussion for a different day, or are we doing, is that an expectation to approve that now, the grade 10s?
I think it would, when everything comes before you, preliminary, for preliminary approval of the salary plan and 2021 budget, I would anticipate just those certifications being associated with those grades, being in there.
Okay,
Just
yep.
no action
No,
necessary.
No action
Yep, we're not
necessary.
opening
Not
up
right
the
now.
couple
This-
grade
no.
10s at this point.
There's
Okay.
no
No.
action right now.
The
All right,
cert-
that's my understanding. We're not,
The certification and then 2 open spots will come before.
when we approve the entire budget, that's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
be part
yeah.
of the package.
Holistically,
Unless
yeah.
we talk about it.
Okay.
Holistically, it's all one kind of a package. So,
So you're talking August 1st,
Yeah.
it would be, okay.
And then that 5% COLA, you'll have that all worked up and on
Yeah.
what that'll do.
Yep, that's all in, it's all in here.
So that would be for the LEC's talk the last meeting, instead of their 4, that would be considered.
Oh,
to go.
Oh, I think the LEC would say a 4.
This
Yeah,
doesn't
they're
impact the,
separate.
this doesn't,
They're not
this doesn't
I
impact
guess
the
what I
other.
was just
Okay,
making
yeah,
sure.
I was thinking that's what you thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would say it 4.
Move on to the 200 funds here. These are all kind of pretty straightforward. Highway distribution fund. This comes from the state. It's something that you just have to estimate. It's a really kind of complex formula about where their money goes, and you just kind of estimate a little bit more than last year, hopefully. And as you can see, you know, running a little bit of a negative balance on there, but depending how much revenue comes in, it can be a good big plus or a negative. So what I'm kind of looking at is on most of these funds is the reserve balance, and we're almost at 100% reserve balance there. So we're in a good, healthy position with that fund. Moving forward, city share special assessments, not much going on there. Emergency, this is for like if one year we had a lot of snow removal one year, and you know, we could transfer from this account if we had an unpredictable cost in that regard.
Is this the one that Terry used to call his
Slush fund?
So to speak, maybe?
No,
No, I know what you're saying.
I'm not telling you where that one is.
But
I'm just kidding.
That was a joke.
but that being said, I mean, we talked about in the past a number of times, is like, I don't know why we have that account, maybe we should just close it out type of thing. Is this
There's a handful of those that we're gonna close.
maybe be on your to-do list type of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
The
that-
next,
That emergency is sitting at 3.4, so we could put another 1.6 mils in there.
the balance, it's just the balance cannot exceed 5
Oh,
mils.
just the balance.
Yeah, it can exceed 5 mils. Right now, all I'm just saying is it's 3.4, so
Oh.
we're within our parameters. Cemetery, I had one typo here. I think that there was they wanted to buy some equipment. And so one line item will change a couple $1,000s, but you know, again, it's one of those where it's a small negative balance there, but you look at the reserves and you're at over 50%. A lot of with these utility type funds, you want to be at 25 to 30. So I'm pretty confident we're in a good spot there. Something to monitor for years to come. So can always transfer something in if we have to. The temporary employees fund, this is kind of where we pool temporary employees from, whether it's typically from Shade Tree or Cemetery or what other department that we have. We transfer them all in here to pay for the temporary employees. We always zero this fund out at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year. So whatever we spend, that's what we spend, and then we send it back out to the departments if there wasn't an expenditure. Was not an expenditure we were incurring. Equipment reserves, and I do apologize. I wish I could go in more detail. We have to do some work on 2021 actuals first before I'm going to be able to give you a good rundown on the equipment reserve. The balances need to match up at the end of the year. So still some work to do on that, and we'll run through this at a later date. Special assessments on city property. We're going to zero this account out and close it. Just transferred it out to the general fund. Penalty and interest on city special assessments. This is, if somebody doesn't pay their bills on time, then there's interest involved with it. So again, good, decent balance there, 62,000. We could probably put those towards future projects if we have to, if pertinent. And then the infrastructure fund, we put a decent chunk of our sales tax into this, which pays for a lot of projects. And then what we do is we send this out to our bond funds, which are those 5,000, those fund 5,000 that we have attached here after this as well, which we'll go over. And, estimating 4.2 million for sales tax next year. And I think last year we estimated 4.1 for 2022, and 2021's came in at 4.075. So trying to be a little bit conservative on the sales tax revenue because you just never know. So don't want to overextend ourselves and make ourselves too reliable on that. So
My opinion on that, conservative is better, because when I first started, I think Terry had done a chart out X amount of years, and at one point we were going to grow exponentially because they used some past history, and we actually regressed a number of years type of thing. So conservative is much better on this one,
Absolutely.
in my opinion.
And so we'll, the money that pays for these, fund 5,000 bonds, a lot of it comes from this infrastructure fund we transfer over. So again, we're sitting at over 50% balance there on infrastructure. And then skip that one page. And then municipal infrastructure, this is the money where we're putting all of our state funds from the Prairie Dog fund that they created. And so the bucket's filled, and we got 2.5 million in 2022 that we're expecting. And we're also expecting about $1 million. That was what the revenue projections were for the 2021-2023 biennium for Devils Lake. So that's what we're.
So the new guy here, what is the Prairie Dog funds?
So the Prairie Dog funds are the oil tax revenue that the state receives. They have a set and defined formula on where the money goes first and where the money goes next, because you can never predict how much money you're going to receive. So they set a priority list, and it's if this much money is raised, the bucket fills and it goes there. So one of the first buckets is municipal infrastructure, and every community, I think it's above 5,000, receives 2.5 million once that bucket fills. Mike, correct me if you ever hear anything wrong. Once that bucket fills, each community gets 2.5 million, and that's a big deal because 2.5 million to us versus 2.5 million to Fargo, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Right? That's a difference. And there's future buckets that go along the way. And then there's another fund that's municipal. And once that fills, then it's on a percentage basis, a size of the community. And we're expecting to receive about $1 million.
Is that going to go on after that year too, or potentially has the chance of going on?
Sounds like Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, the intent is to be in perpetuity moving forward, right?
I believe so.
So,
Oh, okay.
That's the way Terry had explained it.
Okay, that'd be great.
2030 and then 2034 economic development. Just one small change here. The city helps. We allocate money to Forward Devils Lake, and we also have a good partner in the chamber. And I think for the past couple of years, I think we've had some partnership with the Forward Devils Lake to try and support the chamber. And all this does is formalize our support for what the chamber is doing. They bring a lot of events to the community. And the way I look at this is the chamber puts on a lot of really good events. That's why we put the chamber annual report. You can go through all the events. Typically, they seek sponsorships for some of those events. And the city, we're a chamber board member. We don't really sponsor those events. And they bring a lot of draw and add a lot of quality of life to the community. And oftentimes the city will sponsor some events, much like you guys did the rodeo recently. We don't do that, and it's kind of puts the commission in a tough spot, because if you support one event, why don't you support all events, or why are you picking this one and not that one? And so I view this as kind of a blanket sponsorship for all the events that the chamber is putting on. I talked to Paula about, hey, can we get our logo up there as a sponsor of these events if we allocate this money? And she's like, yeah, she nodded her head in affirmative that, yeah, we can definitely do that. And as commissioners, what I would look at as far as these contributions to partner organizations, I think at the actual, looked at the 91, we budgeted 71, total would be 85. So we would be below what we were doing previously. So I think, number one, we're cutting costs and we're supporting both partner organizations. I think it's a win-win. Moving on.
With that comment, so say we are approached next year to fund something like the rodeo or whatever, would a response be visit with the chamber, or is that?
I think the rodeo is distinct and separate from the chamber. The chamber doesn't put that on. They might help facilitate a few things. I don't know.
But I mean,
But-
just for fun, if somebody's asking for funds, I think, because the intent would be for the chamber to use that money to maybe help sponsor somebody that's looking for a little support possibly, or.
I would say the intent is they have a laundry list of events that they put on, and maybe Paula can, if you real question, give you a rundown. But I think, they do the fishing tournament, they do the golf tournament, they do the Rib Fest, they do Rib Fest and whatnot. And so the city doesn't typically sponsor those events. But
Quick question on, maybe this is my ignorance. Isn't our tourism that sponsors those, and our chamber is supposed to promote our business? Was that,
We're completely separate from tourism.
but yeah, aren't you supposed to promote our businesses though, right?
We
That's
do
what the
promote-
chamber is.
That's what our events do.
Okay. It's just what I wanted to.
But your question is, if they come to us for the rodeo next year, are we gonna give them the money like we did this year?
that's
or-
distinct and separate. I would say
That would
that,
be its own line item.
yeah, that would be a
Okay,
different,
all right.
separate thing. So
Or if somebody comes after the rodeo and they say, well, you guys helped with the rodeo, I'm going to do, I don't know, I can't even think of something simple. They want a couple grand.
Yeah.
I mean, do you still envision us making that decision, or is that out of line to say maybe visit with the chamber type thing? Is that-
I think you should just, if somebody did come, you would hear the merits of their request as the city commission.
And maybe
I think it-
we might say visit the chamber, or maybe say we'll take care of it ourselves.
Because I'm gonna say, the chamber does that too, but then you also got the Downtown Alliance that is formed because you're busy with a bunch of stuff, so you're not able to hold all the events they want to down there. So what happens if the Downtown Alliance comes? Because they do hold a lot of events downtown too.
What's that, with that art festival, does that fall under that?
Does that fall under you, the art festival, or is that the downtown?
That's the Lake Region Heritage
That's.
That's just under the Heritage Center. Okay.
Of which we do support.
Yeah.
So
Like I say, I'm just educating myself. And sorry, can I back up just one spot here?
Yeah.
We were talking about the municipal infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then the payments to contractors,
Oh, yeah.
2.18.
My apologies. Thanks for pointing that out. We have a capital improvement plan that we devised, I think, in about 8-year increments. Is that right, Mike?
It just wasn't clicking. Yep, that's right. That's,
And I highlighted that 2.8 because we're going to work up a little bit more, a better deliverable for you, just to give you an idea of specifically the projects that we're working on 2022. And, because the capital improvement plan, it changes year to year a little bit because of what projects we're able to get into the pipeline and which ones we're not. And so just giving an update of where we're at for 2022, what we're planning for 2023, and maybe go along with 2024. And so we'll brief you on that at one of these future budget
this
meetings.
just looked real general and my brain wasn't catching it, but that goes with your infrastructure plan, improvement plan.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And we'll brief that in a little bit more detail at a future meeting for you guys. Because that's a big expenditure that we have, and it's a really important. So we'll give you a good briefing on that. So I think that pretty much does it with the asset forfeiture fund. This is kind of an old police department thing. Not very much money in there. We'll keep it in there for now. And so now on to the fund 500, the 5,000 funds, if that works for you guys. Special assessment deficiencies, they're about 50 grand. non-bonded debt service. So this is for projects that we don't bond out, and there's a special assessment of 25%, and the city covers the other 75%. The numbers in this, the 285,000 is that 25% that's assessed that we bring in, and we put it into this fund. Sewer separation, pretty small amount there. And bonds, looking at these bonds, I've expressed a lot of optimism about where we're going as an organization, and I am pretty excited about what we're doing. And I'm excited about where this city is going to be in about 5 years, given the bonds that we have and when we're expected to pay them off, and the sales tax money, and that is going to be freed up. Now, granted, it frees up money to put towards new projects and new bonded debt service that benefits the community. So I'm really excited about that. And also too, once these are paid off, some of these are like TIF districts. So currently they're not contributing to the broader tax base. All their funds go to improving their area. And then once they come onto the books, the value of the mill is going to increase. And so that's what I'm really excited about. So you'll see, I'm going to refer to the reserve balance on these bonds as we go through them, just to show you that we're going to be able to pay these off earlier than expected if we stay with the current strategies that we have, and we're committed to them for the next 3, 4, 5 years. We're going to be in a good spot. So bond 5476, you'll see, has about $300,000 in there. We can probably shave off 2, 3 years of that. So hopefully retire that 28 or 29, 5, 6 years down the road. Number 580, we refinanced this one, so we're closing it on. The reason we have been here is just for informational purposes and documentation, given that there's still relevant information over the last 4 years for you. SRF bond 2015. You look at the reserve balance relative to the year expenditures. I mean, you're 2 to 3 years off already. So you're looking at 2027, 2026 possibly, depending on how the sales tax goes, to retire this bond, and that would free up 9% of our sales tax, which is, it's a big chunk of money. So 5482, we refinance this one, so we're zeroing that one out. 5483 looks like it'll take, we got 2 years banked up there. This one's a little bit longer term, over a decade, but like I said, I think we'll be retiring that one early, about 2030. It looks like cautiously optimistically. 5484, we're at sitting about 590. Year expenditures is 150. So, we're about 4 years there, shaving off already. And that one looks like it just got going. So, like I said, some of these will be reinvested in future projects, but
Some of these TIF districts, they're not full either. Full, they're not completely developed. So there's still room if there's some more houses or businesses, like Cenex's, that isn't all full. So, I mean, if a business come in there, that's gonna expedite that TIF district coming off of the.
Yep. 5485, that one's going pretty much on schedule as well. 5488, this one is, we got 4 or 5 years off already on that one. So looking at 2030, 2029, at least as of now for that one. And 5486 looks like 3 years there. These ones are already longer term ones. 5489, we got this one should be retired here soon, hopefully. Possibly 2026, we could be retiring that as well, that TIF district, and that would get put to the tax rolls and help increase the value of a mill, which helps keep everybody's property taxes flat. These are the 2021A. These are the refinancing of the 2014, like I mentioned. That one's a good longer term. So just various street improvement projects that we have throughout the city. And then pretty much that does it for the 5,000 funds, unless you guys have any questions. I think we got the 8,000 funds, if I can just find out where my stuff is. Here we go. About the 800s or 8,000. So library, they're gonna be here on Monday to go over their budget, but we always dedicate 5 mils to them, and value of the mill we got is $21,476. So got 5 mils there for them, and then they got their request from the county. I think 3.07 mils they requested. So they'll come over and give you a briefing about what they got going on at the library here in the future. Parking authority, pretty much all the same. Again, I'm really looking at the reserve balances on these just being new, and we got over 100% there, so we're sitting healthy in the parking authority.
Thought that one had 40,000 allocated to that.
41.
41.
Well, the reserve balance is 41,000.
Yeah, I thought there was,
Has
wasn't there 40,000 in there a year we could play with?
The
Helen?
reserve fund is from the sale of parking lots, quite a few years back,
So I thought this is in yours.
is sitting there in the fund. Should they decide to purchase other parking lots.
Yeah, 'cause I thought Terry had somehow bumped that up or did something different.
What's the maximum assessment for the parking?
Helen, could you come speak to the microphone, please?
The maximum assessment that the parking authority can assess to the downtown district is $40,000 per year. And that was determined when they did the parking district in 2016. Of those things that can be assessed are snow removal costs, sweeping costs, signing costs, maintenance costs, those types of things are assessed. There is a formula that's out there, been in place forever, to determine the assessment per business. Each business is required to have a minimum number of off-street parking spaces. And in short, the formula that they use is they determine the cost that's going to be assessed for the year. They divide it by the number of parking spaces that are required of all the businesses combined. They come up with a per parking space cost, and any business that is short 10 parking spaces will then get assessed for whatever that cost is times the 10, and that's how it's divided out over the entire downtown district. This year, we're looking at doing 2 different parking lots, mill and overlay projects. Those projects, the city is going to participate in cost, but the parking authority then will assess to the downtown businesses their share of that cost.
Maybe that's where that 40,000 came. Was the assessed part.
And the amount that's assessed each year is the actual expenses, so that each year, the assessment varies based on the actual costs that were incurred for the year.
Maybe that's what he said was the max we could do was 40,000 then.
That's correct. That's what it is right now, is 40,000.
Perfect. Thank you, Helen.
Yeah.
I think it just goes to a testament to how much Helen contributes to and has her hands in so many different things, whether it's assessing, building, engineering, parking, city beautification. So just a real head nod to Helen, and she's an institution around here. And I got to tell you, just with a lot of new folks in the auditing department, she has been a godsend. We couldn't imagine being here working hard every day without Helen being able to point us in the right direction, helping us find things. So thank you for all you do. Historical preservation, just some money in case there's some historical preservation initiatives and engagement from that group. Jobs Development Authority. What we do is we dedicate 3 mills to the Jobs Development Authority, and then there's an administrative fee of $1,200. So whatever the difference between the mill or the 3 mills, the $1,200, that's what we send over to Forward Devils Lake. Brad will be here on Monday to go over his budget in more detail and what he's working on, and there's reserve balance is about 90% there. So. Self-insurance fund, so we're waiting on Blue Cross Blue Shield for rates. We've asked adamantly, and so we're just we're waiting on them to give us rates, and that's going to have impacts throughout the entire organization. What we're paying for health insurance. In speaking with Terry yesterday, he had recommended just to, looking at past years, why don't you just increase it 7% tentatively? And so that's what I did. I increased it all 7%, and we're pretty satisfied with the reserve balance we got there. I think some of these funds can have pretty bad years, and to have a good, healthy reserve balance is important, and I think we can have that. Also, just because I referenced it in speaking with Terry yesterday, I think the message that he thinks is important to send is whether you look at these 800 funds or specifically the 5,000 funds with the bonds that we are able to satisfy and meet our obligations and then some with those bonds and pay our debt. So 11, the growth fund, not much change from previous years. And if you look, there's a healthy balance that are growing. And that's the intent, is we want to grow that loan fund. So keeping most the same as previous years, and then the airport hangar rent stays the same. So that's what we have for presentations here, Mayor and members of the commission. Welcome any questions or input that you guys have on moving forward. And appreciate the time today.
Thank you, Spencer, for doing a great job and enlightening us on the up and coming budget. Anybody here have any questions that they want to pose? Chief, you're certainly quiet over here.
I don't talk. We're talking, spoken to.
Okay. Nice change.
You aren't sitting over here.
Okay, anybody have anything that they want to bring up at this time?
I would just say, Mayor, thank you guys and all members of the commission. Thank you for your patience with us as we go through this process. We know it's a quick timeline, but we're aspiring to do the best that we can. And we're excited for the approval of this budget and moving forward.
Okay, well, thank you. And we are also.
The growth fund, I should know this, you'd think, but their funds are derived from a certain amount of sales tax. Is that
I should know
those
off the top of
dollars
my
come
head.
from?
Excuse me. Let me look here.
Transfer.
So their funds, they loan out money to companies and businesses, and they get interest back. So
So it's a low interest loan that they run.
Yeah, the revenue of this sales tax transfer from 2034 fund, maybe, is that?
yeah, so if you go back to the 2034 fund, we give the reserve balance in that fund to this growth fund. It gets sent, there's a growth fund line item in that 2034,
Okay.
and it gets sent over here. So this is just basically a transfer.
And their reserve, I mean, the greater the better, obviously, in case you have a big project. But I wonder what the goal, if there is a cap or a goal or anything, that there is no recommended.
I think what you want to do with the growth fund is to, you want to have a good, healthy balance. That way you can loan out more low interest loans, and then they come back and it grows. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on the growth fund, but I can ask around to see what, number one, what the intent is, and if there is a desired balance to get that to where we want to hold it.
That's more of a forward devil's lake than a Brad.
I think
They're
that's a good question for Brad when he comes on Monday.
Okay. That's all I have.
That's all you have? Anybody else? Well, thank you guys for making this work. So anybody, final?
Thank Dee and Spencer for all their
Yeah,
work and
thanks,
getting
guys.
this ready.
Absolutely.
Do you foresee the conversation evolving about the COVID funds and stuff like that? You've probably been swamped with everything else, but do you see anything?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're going to do is we have some equipment that we need to buy for fire and police. We got a new CAD system that some of you had seen the demo for the new CAD system that one day over at the county building, as well as we got to pay for some siren radios, the unfunded mandate. So I think, given the intent of the COVID funds, I think public safety equipment is a good place to put them to start. And then I think a chunk of that money, seeing how we can partner with our partner organizations on maybe enhancing some quality of life initiatives in the area. So we'll have a broader conversation on that moving forward. I do, there's at least from just my time being here, and speaking with every commissioner, when I just started, I met with every commissioner, and then I met with all the department heads. And I think facility upgrades was a common thing that I heard throughout all those conversations, whether it be increasing the safety here at City Hall, new commission chambers, and whatnot. So across the organization. So I think taking a chunk of that, and I have an idea to create a building reserve fund that we can continue to fund throughout, we can continue to fund throughout the year. That way we don't have to come up with the money from scratch, and we're always contributing to it, so that when the time comes that we'll have some money to invest. So those just off the top of my head there, and it'll all be in relation to the general fund because that's where the money's at right now.
No other business, this budget session adjourned. You said you have sandwiches?
I do. Do they come?